Hello everyone. Right, so basically Steve's gave me a bit of a hospital pass, to be fair, of trying to make insurance more interesting, which is not that easy. But hopefully today I'll be able to tell you something and you'll walk away knowing something you didn't know when you first came in the room. So a little bit about me to start with. So I've worked in insurance for 10 years nearly now. 3 of those working for SJL, as working with commercial businesses ranging from SMEs all the way up to sort of international multi-corporate clients and everything in between. But when I started out, I was just doing single van insurance, so commercial vehicles, and also doing some motor trade insurance, which is how I started. But yeah, worked away to where I am now. But the next, also wanted to tell you a little bit about SJL as a whole. So SJL's been going just over 22 years now. Started up by Simon Lancaster, who's the guy in the middle, very proudly holding the plaque. So he started the business with a £200 grant from the Prince's Trust, brought himself a laptop, set up in his mum and dad's spare bedroom, and was wholesaling insurance products to other insurance brokers essentially. So insurance, really, when you look at it, it's the same as anything else. You can sort of buy it to sell on. So he set up a wholesale product essentially selling property insurance to other brokers. So somebody would send in some paperwork and say, I've got a block of flats and need insurance to £100 million. So he'd work out, speak to some underwriters, then go back to them and say, this is how much you can charge for it and I'll take my cut. That's how it started. We now have both arms, so we've still got a wholesale arm and we've got a direct arm. So I work in direct arm, which is working direct with people like yourselves, and essentially working together to sort of get an insurance package that will suit you. It's a really common misconception that the cheapest insurance is going to be the best for you. We all get that we all need to be looking at price and things like that and where we can save money. But it's also really important to have the right cover in place, which I'll go into in a bit more detail in a minute. But yeah, we turned over £35 million last year, and we've got a national awards winning claims team. So we got voted for by other brokers and by members of the public, things like that. So it's not one of the ones you have to pay for a table to get, spend £700 to get your award. But yeah, so next little bits. What I wanted to talk to you about first is cyber insurance. So cyber insurance is a really hot topic at the minute. Lots of people are talking about it, but I don't think people actually know what it is. So do we know sort of what it is, cyber insurance? So yeah, so essentially that's what everyone sort of thinks straight away, and it is. So that's there as an element of it, is the protection of, there's a lot of companies out there as well that you'll see do cyber security and stuff. So we're not saying you don't need cyber security, just have cyber insurance instead. It's different to quite a lot of other products like that. So what it does is provides a safety net essentially that sits underneath. So if anything sort of goes wrong along the way, then we will look to pick up any sort of potential PR risks. So things that go along with cyber insurance are reputational damage. So people often don't think about the fact of, if you have loads of data leaked, how does that look from the outside? It obviously doesn't look very good. When people, if it's like a client's data getting leaked, it doesn't look great. What I wanted to show you is quite interesting on here, if it works. If my mouse works as well. That does. So this will load, and then I'll have to move it over to this screen, I think. So this is a website that we use, which is called ThreatMap. These are live cyber attacks happening now, like as you speak. So there's different colours that happen. America seems to have it in for us quite a bit at the minute. So yeah, you see them sort of as they're live. So the yellow ones are, yeah, this is literally as it happens as well. So they see the attacks go on and then they get registered to the website. So it's obviously a map of the world. We've got different coloured lines. There's not too many that are showing up that are different colours. So there's 3 different colour ones that I'm trying to see if it's a reason why it's not. So orange lines are exploitation attacks. So it's basically somebody trying to draw someone's data out to exploit it and sell it on to someone else. Red ones are phishing attacks, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a little bit. you might know a little bit about phishing already, but it's not phishing like that type of phishing.
No.
So PH, yeah. So phishing is essentially a form of social engineering. So what they'll do is hackers will send out emails to companies dependent on sort of size and things like that really, but anyone's pretty vulnerable to it. They'll send out emails trying to get you to give out personal information of the company or from yourself personally. One of the ones that we see loads at the minute is the fact that they'll intercept an invoice that's going in between two companies. So say for example, SJL working with Penguin, for example, you send us an invoice, the invoice gets intercepted midway through, so if you think of it as post, like while it's in the post, the invoice gets intercepted, and then they'll change the bank details on the invoice to the hacker's bank details. We'll pay the invoice, say it's £1,000, we pay the £1,000 invoice, we think that's all done, on its way, no questions asked. 30 days later, Penguin say, where's our £1,000 still? We go, oh, we paid it. But by that time, the company that you've actually paid it to shut down and nobody's got £1,000 then.
Just on that as well, I actually know someone who that happened to.
Yeah.
So it's a real problem.
Happens lots at the minute. It's one of the biggest things that we see. So cyber insurance, again, like the cyber security is there to help stop these sort of things. But then cyber insurance, if the worst does happen, then we'll put you back into, so all insurance is basically there to put you back into the position that you was before the loss. So that's like pretty much the dictionary definition of insurance. You should never be in a position better off from insurance. This is also it's a common misconception that people think, oh well, I have a big insurance claim and I'll be better off than I was. You should never be. You should always be back into the position that you was before the loss. No better, no worse. So yeah, thought this was quite interesting, but if anyone wants to look at it, it's called threat map. So it's quite good to sort of show people how often this sort of thing happens. But we will go back. Yeah, don't watch it too much because you get really like stuck in your head about it.
I think Russia get a bad rep. There's not much
Yeah,
going
not
on
that
from Russia, is
I
there?
noticed there's loads going on in the Maldives. The Maldives kicking off.
Weirdly, what they do is you see a lot of them so Russia on there more than most, you'll see attacks back to Russia. So it'll be essentially they're just attacking other Russian businesses. So you see it all the time on there with Russia. Nobody else, you don't see that much. You do see Ireland attacking us quite a lot, but weirdly. But yeah, so that's something that we just wanted that we use and show our clients sort of the magnitude of the problem that is going on. Obviously it's huge. Then what we wanted to talk through is a couple of little stats. So 63% of UK businesses don't have cyber insurance in place or don't have the adequate level of cyber insurance that they should need, which is obviously quite a high percentage when you cut that across everyone. It also looks like it's going to be really expensive, cyber insurance. It's not. Like there's products that you pick up and it's like 400 quid, like for a proper cyber policy that actually covers you for what you need. Also, common misconception that cyber insurance is just there to pay out to people who have had their data leaked. That's not really what it's for. So that's 3% supposedly, according to CFC, who are a major cyber underwriter. 3% of their claim payouts are to third parties, so to someone who's had their data lost. 97% of the payouts are to first party. So it's if you've had like systems bricked and things like that, that's where 97% of their claim values go to, is to the person who took the cyber insurance out. Then 32% of businesses have suffered a cyber attack in the last 12 months. So, which is obviously quite a lot. A third of all businesses that are out there at the minute have suffered a cyber attack, whether they know about it or not, in the last 12 months. If you don't know about it, then it's not. This isn't like a scaremongering thing, but there's potential that you don't know about it, and you might know about it next year, because they won't just release data straight away. If they've stolen data off you, they won't just sell it on straight away. It'll be because it looks too obvious, essentially. So they wait a year. It's like any other criminals, it's the same. If somebody was to steal something, they don't tend to sell it the next day. It tends to be a bit further down the line so that nobody gets caught out for it. The other little bits, so 95% of data breaches that happen are a result of human error. So in relation to phishing attacks and things like that, is 95% of business of cyber attacks that happen are down to human error, and the average claim last year was £15,300 for a cyber claim that went through. So that again, 97% of that would be paid to the person who's took the cyber insurance out. The next bit that I wanted to speak to you, moving on from cyber insurance, might make more difference to everyone, hopefully. Most people have got a house in the room. So when you insure your house, they ask you for the rebuild cost of your house. I don't know if anyone's done this recently. There's a massive difference between what people think of rebuild cost and market value. So rebuild cost is how much it actually costs to not just rebuild your house, as it says, but get rid of all the debris. So everything that was, if there was a huge fire, they'll have to clean all the site, get the site back so it's ready to work on. Then rebuild the house, any outbuildings, things like that, clearing the site, any professional fees, that's the rebuild value. Market value is how much the property would sell for. So it's really easy for people to get confused with it when you're speaking to someone on the phone and they go, okay, what's the rebuild value of your house? Oh, well, it sold for, we bought it for £400,000 last year. It could be that £400,000 just isn't enough, but because to actually rebuild the house would cost way more than that, along with the professional fees and the clearing of the site would cost way more than that. So it's worth having a look. The way that we do it, I'll show you at the end, is another website that we use. But how underinsurance actually works, so just to show you sort of what happens if you do underinsure your property. It doesn't mean that if you've got a house, so we'll go through this example. So if you've got the rebuild value of your house is £400,000. If you then insure it for £200,000, it doesn't mean that you'll get paid out just £200,000 if you have a claim. So they work on what they call an average clause. So your underinsurance percentage is 50%. So what they'll do via the average clause is if you were to then have a claim that cost £100,000, because you've insured your property by 50%, you've underinsured your property by 50%, they'll only pay out 50% on any claim that happens. So this will probably be with all of your home insurances that you hold. They'll only pay out 50% of the claim. So if you had a big fire, caused £100,000 worth of damage to your house, it'd still only pay out £50,000, and then you've got to find £50,000 to top it up from somewhere else, because you've already had the insurance is sort of lied to them about how much the property's worth. So it's worth having a look, checking out your rebuild cost. On there as well is 81% of properties in the UK currently underinsured, 14% are overinsured, leaving 5% that are actually insured correctly of all properties. So this nice little graphic that someone made for me shows how many houses are actually insured properly. So yeah, it's worth having a look. What we use is just to touch on that actually as well, because of how much it's changed recently, the cost of building houses, COVID was huge and made a massive impact on like supply of sort of timber and things like that. Labour as well went up massively. In 2014, the average cost to build a house was £1,400 per square metre. I can't remember, one of the two. £1,400 per square, whatever unit I'm thinking of. It's actually now £2,200. So the increase over 10 years is quite drastic. So if you haven't looked at how much property is to rebuild in the last 10 years, chances are it's probably going to be half the cost of what it should be that you're insured up to. So worth having a look at that. Then this is the website we use. So it's a website called BCIS Rebuild Cost Assessment. Essentially, it just asks you a few questions about your house. So asks you for your postcode, number of bedrooms. It asks you for square footage of your house as well. Some people don't know, but you can sort of estimate. Like you don't have to go out and walk the ground and take a tape measure and tell them how much it is, but you can sort of guess. So it's worth having a little look, even on there just for your own benefit really. What it will do, the BCIS website then will kick out 3 prices. So it will say, this is if you were to rebuild your house to a lower than average specification. This is if you were to have it built to an average specification, and then if you were to have it built to a high specification, how much it would cost on average to rebuild. So they obviously can't tell you exactly for your house, but it gives you a better estimate than just sort of bit of a finger in the air job. So yeah, we ask all our clients, anyone that we're doing sort of house property insurance with, to just pop it through the PCIS. It's the one thing, so even though we're an advised insurance company, it's one of the very few things that we can't advise on. So we can't tell you how much your house is to insure. We can't say, this is how much it'll cost to rebuild your house. So we have to rely on our customers to tell us, basically. And yeah, so that's the thing. It also works very similar with commercial businesses, apart from the website doesn't work for commercial properties. So it's more important then you can get a survey done for relatively cheap. We sell them from work for, I think it's £175, something like that, which is worth its weight in gold really. If you're insuring a £10 million property, so commercial properties are easy £10 million, some of them, then you can get £175 guy to come out and do a survey and say, this is how much I think it'll cost to rebuild your property, and then it's not going to lose you £5 million if your property gets burnt down. Well, that is my short sort of tell you a little bit about insurance, but if anyone's got any questions or anything, I'm happy to answer them. If you don't want to ask me now, it's fine. If I don't know the answers, then I'll know someone who does. I'm not going to sit and lie to you and go, oh yeah, that might be it. But if it's not, I'll find someone who does. But yeah, if you need any help with any commercial insurance, any building insurance, feel free to take a picture, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll see what I can do. Cheers guys.